Welcome into Gearheart Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me on the phone right now, one of the founding members of REO Speedwagon. Welcome on, Mr. Neal Doughty. Neal, how's it going today?
I'm doing just fine. We're out on the road finally after almost a year and a half, and we're having fun. We're playing better than we ever did, I think. We got rested up, and then we rehearsed intensely for a couple of weeks, and we came right out of the gate ready to go.
Yeah, it's so awesome to see concerts coming back and all the bands hitting the road. It's a beautiful thing. But speaking about quarantine, I'm like a lot of the world. During that whole experience, one thing that I done was stay inside, sit on the couch, and watch TV. And one show that I really got into was a show on Netflix called Ozark. And for those who haven't checked out the show, y'all had a special appearance during last year's season, and I was not expecting to see REO Speedwagon on Ozark. How did all of that come about?
You know, I'm pretty sure our manager pulled that off, but when I heard about it, I mean, we were on season 2, I guess, and that had already been like my favorite show on Netflix. My wife and I would binge episodes of that show till late hours, and all of a sudden, management calls up and says, "You guys are going to actually be in an episode of Ozark." And I totally freaked out. And some of the guys hadn't seen it. And I said, "You got to go watch it right now. Watch every episode to see what a good show we're going to be on." And it was just really fun. I mean, it took half a day to do it, and we got to hang out with Jason Bateman, who is just a really nice guy. He's been in this acting business his whole life, so he's pretty normal. And it was just so much fun. And then watching it, that was just really a treat.
Well, I got to say that I'm glad that they didn't kill y'all off like they do every other character on that show. I'm glad that y'all stuck around for the entire episode.
Yeah, well, maybe they kill us off in season 3. I don't know. We haven't found out. But I think that's going to be our only appearance. It was tied in the first 2 episodes of that season. They're talking about they have a big private convention of dentists who want REO Speedwagon. So, you know, we got some name drops there in the first 2 episodes, and then there's a great line where Marty goes up to his boss among the drug cartel and he says, "I just laundered $100,000 at an REO Speedwagon concert." So we're always glad to help a poor guy launder $100,000. You know, although it hasn't happened in reality, but. Yeah, that was great. I could talk about that for hours, but you probably don't have that much time.
Well, I do got to say congratulations on 40 years of Hi Infidelity and the album recently going 10 times platinum. That is just an amazing accomplishment. I got to ask, whenever the band was making this record, did y'all have any idea how big this album was going to be for y'all?
I don't think so. I mean, you always think your next record is going to be the one that really does it. But by the time we were getting done with this record, I was starting to realize that I really liked it. Now, you know, sometimes you work on a record for 3 or 4 months, and you just don't even want. Personally, would just like not even want to hear it for 6 months after we were done. With all that work. And this one, I came right out of the studio, and it was my favorite album. I mean, I had a cassette of it before it was ever released, and I listened to that thing constantly. So I'm going, wow, if I like it after all that time in the studio that it took to do it, you know, maybe this time's different. And I remember seeing it work its way up the charts. And of course, that song Kevin brought in, "Keep on Loving You," we thought we might have something there with that song, although we'd mainly been doing more of a 70s harder rock type thing. And I said, "Kevin, I don't know if they really want this love ballad from us." And And he said, well, trust me. And I did, and it worked.
It really is an amazing album. In my opinion, there's not a bad song on it. But the very first time that I listened to Hi Infidelity in its entirety, one part that threw me off a little bit was the Little Rascals snippet there at the beginning of Tough Guys. Whenever I flipped that vinyl record over, I was not expecting to hear Spanky and Alfalfa on a REO Speedwagon song. What made y'all include that on the album?
Well, the song Tough Guys, obviously, I thought, like I was a fan of all those Little Rascals films, and I mean, they're still playing today. And so we were working on Tough Guys, and I actually fell asleep with the TV on one night, and like 2 a.m, I heard the familiar sound of the Little Rascals, and I went, and I ran over and punched record, because I knew that this episode was the one where Darla says that to him, and Spanky mentions the He-Man Woman Haters Club, and Alfalfa just perfectly says, well, I got to live my own life, and it is exactly what's being said in the song. So I took that VCR to the band, and I said, we got to have this bit of dialogue in front of Tough Guys. And of course, it's one reason. I mean, on the old vinyl, it's the beginning of side 2 is that snippet from the Rascals, and then that song starts. And to this day, you're liable to hear that at a concert before we play that song. We went to the King brothers, who owned all that stuff, and they were just thrilled that we wanted to use that piece of their film on our album, which turned out to be, a big album. And they, we met a few of them on the road, and they were just happy to let us do that. So someday I would like to get it with complete video of that scene and show that on a video screen. But we, that might be a little harder to pull off, but no, they gave us the 16 millimeter original film, and we took the audio off of that. So
wow, very cool, very cool.
Fun. Yeah.
I've always been a big REO fan, and one thing that I've always appreciated about the music that your band makes is the honesty and realness in it. Like, I know that y'all make the hits, but those same hits talk about real life struggles that I think that everybody can relate to in one form or another. And I wanted to ask you this question. Was it ever difficult for the band to be so open about personal issues with the entire world through y'all's music?
I think, I've written a couple of the songs, but, Kevin and Gary Richrath, our original guitar player, they seem to think that's the best way to get it out of your system. And I've heard it said that the easiest songs to write are the true stories. You can't just make stuff up. It has to be a true story to be a really good song. I wrote one song, One Lonely Night, and that was a true story. And it was the only good song I ever wrote. Fortunately, I didn't have enough good true stories like the rest of these guys. But a lot of songwriters will tell you that if you just try to make something up, the song's not going to be as sincere, and it's way better if it's a true story, and that has worked for us.
Yeah, I know that Hi Infidelity was a very personal album for all the members in the band. Do you think that may be one thing that related to the success of the album, was how the listeners could relate to it?
Absolutely. I mean, we were all going through some crazy stuff in our personal lives. I was going through a really bad breakup, and Kevin was having a few problems too, and that kind of like the whole album was a true story, not just song by song, but the title was just perfect, of the album. And, Kevin brought that in, too. He said, let's call this Hi Infidelity. And we go, not only is that a great pun, but it's like the true story of what we went through while we were making this record. So once again, the true stories win out every time.
Okay, Neal, I got one final question for you today. I love getting a chance to ask bands this question because it's always interesting to hear the answers. As I understand it, it was you that came up with the name REO Speedwagon. In my opinion, one of the greatest band names in rock and roll history. How did the name of the group come about?
Well, it was an actual name of an old truck that Ransom Eli Olds, that's what the REO stands for. He got in a big fight at GM over the Oldsmobile that he designed, and he started his own company. And his REO Speedwagon was a high-speed, heavy-duty truck for its day. And I was in engineering at University of Illinois, and I was in a kind of a history of transportation kind of a class. And I swear, the day we decided we better have a name for the band because we wanted to start getting some shows, some work on campus. And the next day I walked in and that name was written across the whole front of the classroom on the blackboard. And he started going into this was a milestone in transportation because it could go high speed and also be heavy duty. And I'm going, wow, high speed, heavy duty. That's rock and roll, And I brought it to the guys. They loved it instantly. There was never even another name that was considered.
Well, speaking about transportation, I know that you and the rest of the guys got to get on the road this evening, so we're going to let you get to it. Neal, thanks again, buddy.
Okay, thank you.